Okay, so working on the Chevelle Turbo LS build, and in a previous video we talked about what kind of EFI tank I'm going to be using, and in that video I also discussed the advantages of a fuel module. So that video is right here. Take a look at that and reference it. But in this video we're going to talk about the actual fuel module and pumps I'm going to be using, and also the fuel controller, which comes from VaporWorks. Okay, and the setup that I'm going to show you here that I'm going with is good for 700 horsepower on E85. Okay, I went a little overkill on this. Why not, right? So I'm going to throw a link to VaporWorks in the upper right and in the video description. Make sure to check out their website. They got a ton of products and information on their website, so you can research and dive more into how the fuel modules work and the benefits of it and whatnot. So make sure to check that out. Okay, so what I've done is I went to carpart.com. That's car-part. Okay, and what that website is a bunch of salvage yards list the parts that they have for sale. So I looked up 2009 and up Cadillac CTSV with the 6.2 liter and looked under fuel pump, and there was a bunch of salvage yards that were selling these units. I picked this up for $250. It looks like it's in really good shape. This thing isn't cracked or anything. I guess this is a common failure point here. But what this is, there's two pumps in here. Okay, so what I'm going to do is upgrade these pumps. I think VaporWorks is going to do that for me. So install two brand new higher flow pumps and run their PWM controller and all that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to ship this off to him, and he's going to rebuild it. Okay, and then we'll have tons of fuel. So what he did is he took this all apart and upgraded the pumps to the AEM 340 liters per hour pumps. Okay, so these are the old pumps. Changed out the filter. And then also these come stock with a plastic fitting here, which are known to break and leak. So what I had him do is upgrade that to an aluminum bulkhead. So he mills some stuff and whatnot, and this is all aluminum, so it won't crack. And he flow tested it. Okay, so this has upgraded pumps, new filters. It works. It has this. This guy is gonna flow a lot of fuel. Okay, and then it still has the hookup for the corner pickups. And also, I removed float level sensor because I have a different 0 to 90 style. Okay, over here is the VaporWorks kit. Let's open this up. Got some instructions to read through. Alright, so let's open this guy up. Alright, so this is the PWM controller. Okay, it's the heavy duty case. And here's all the connections that we need to make. But yeah, this is what's going to control this guy. Okay, this is a fitting for here. Okay, so this is all the wiring that's needed for this kit. This plugs into, good deal. So we'll go through all this wiring. And this is pretty much everything I need. Okay, real quick story about how I learned about VaporWorks. I actually met the owner, Carl, back in 2006. I was living in California at the time, and it turns out my boss at the place I worked at went to high school with Carl. And this was right when I acquired my Chevelle. You know, I bought it when I was out there in Nevada. And he's like, hey, Carl is really into cars, and he's got a 69 Camaro, I believe, or is it 67, 68? I don't know. I will put some pictures. Anyway, he's like, yeah, let's go over there and we'll just talk or whatever. So I met him and we talked cars and whatnot. And here we are 15 years later, and I still keep in contact with him every few years when I have questions on my project. And, you know, I've been wanting to do this build for like 10 years. So anyway, here it goes. Let me do some doodling and we'll talk about how this VaporWorks system works. Okay, real quick, let me discuss a few things. So we have the tank, we have the engine, and I have a 3/8 hard line, which is stock, 3/8 OD stock line in my frame rail from this car, and that's what I'm going to use. So all I'm going to do is do some whips, okay? And there are compression fittings that convert tube to AN. So I'm going to do -6, okay, whips. So that takes care of that. That's pretty easy. Now, what most people do is they'll run a huge pump, okay? Maybe even 2 pumps, okay? And then the second pump will be activated under boost with the pressure switch, just a Hobbs switch. You know, you hit 1, 2, 3 PSI of boost, and they turn on the second pump to deliver more fuel, okay? That certainly works and all, but, you know, I think VaporWorks system is more reliable, and I'll show you in a second. Also, when you're doing this, you're kind of running 1 or 2 pumps at full speed, okay? And what that does is it generates a lot of heat, okay? And then some people will even do a return line, okay? So what you're doing is you're feeding fuel all the time, all the way up to the engine bay, and whatever fuel is not needed is returned back. So this loop generates heat. Okay, every time you move fuel, you are generating heat. When you're running pumps, you are generating heat. This is going to be a 99.9% street car, and I want to drive it. So that's why we're going to look into the VaporWorks system. So let me go ahead and doodle that. Okay, so what I have here is the fuel module, and we discussed what a fuel module does in the RWHP E85 tank video, but basically what it does is it has a venturi and it keeps this bucket full of fuel so you don't get starvation issues when you're cornering and stuff. Okay, so the blue is fuel, and if I'm in a heavy corner or whatever, I also have these corner pickups and it'll continuously feed this bucket. Okay, so that's a super reliable setup. All OEM cars do that, okay? So that's what I wanted, okay? Because I do want to autocross this car and stuff like that, and I just want it to be reliable, okay? So we have this, but now we got to solve the problem of running 2 massive pumps, okay? Or whatever, 2 big pumps, okay? So here's how the VaporWorks system works, okay? Okay, so we introduce a PWM controller, which stands for pulse width modulation. And what that is doing is basically hitting this with voltage on and off, okay? And you get an average voltage, okay? So basically, how does this guy know when to turn the pumps on or off? Well, there is a sensor that we plug in here that monitors fuel pressure, okay? And we set the pressure, you know, for, let's say 43 PSI, right? That is set in here by turning a screw, okay? Well, this guy gives feedback to the controller. When the pressure drops, this starts adding more voltage to the pumps, okay? So, at idle, you know, you could be at like 4 volts or whatever. I'm just making that number up, okay? And it's just delivering enough fuel for idle, okay? No more, no less, right? And at wide open throttle, let's say, you know, 11 volts or whatever, you know, it gives it a lot more fuel and it'll push more fuel, okay? Also with this system, it's single feed, no return, okay? So that simplifies the plumbing. You don't need a pressure regulator because this is keeping it constant and it's adjustable. So it has a built-in pressure regulator, basically. So that's awesome. Now, I got the PressureWorks system, and what that does, it takes your map reading, okay, which is pressure, right? and it feeds it back to here. And it has a 1-to-1 rising rate. Okay, so at 10 pounds of boost, it's going to be at 53 psi. Okay, so it's going to ramp up the pressure reading off the map sensor of the engine. Okay, so that's pretty awesome. Also, let's say I need more power. Let's say I run out of capability with this pump. Well, you can introduce a booster pump. The company he recommends is JSM. So basically, what that does is it goes like this, and there's another wire that connects here. But basically, he sets it up such that this circuit knows when you need more fuel based off the duty cycle of this, and it ramps up the voltage past, 12 or 14 volts, okay? It adds another volt or two, and you get a lot more capacity or fuel pumped out of these pumps. So if I won't need this, but if I do, that's an option, and I bought it just in case. So I hope I explained that correctly, but basically the voltage booster pumps more voltage to this, but then this guy decides when to boost it, okay? Because you don't want it on full voltage or boosted voltage all the time, because then the pumps get hot and they're running or whatever. So that's it. This is pretty simple. Some of this stuff does cost a lot of money, right? But remember, you don't need a fuel pressure regulator. You don't need a return line. The filter, you don't need any filters, because the filters are down here. The connections are simple because they're just whips. It's just going to be what I think a super reliable system, expandable, and I think I'll be covered for all my needs. And I went overkill on this, okay? And that's just because why not? Okay, it seemed like the LS3 module obviously wouldn't do it. The ZL1 I probably would have had to buy new. So I found this one used, upgraded it, and it's ready to go. Okay, so after asking Carl, the fuel pump module that I have with the AEM pumps that he installed through his PWM controller on E85, I should be able to do 700 rear wheel horsepower with E85, okay? And he sold a bunch of these to people in Australia, and they were getting these results, okay? All through a -6 line, okay? Now, if I want to go more, I can do the booster pump, okay? I'm not going to do that. I feel I don't need it, but I just wanted an option, okay? It's always nice to have room to grow, right? So he said, hey, if you have a booster pump and you add 1 more volt, you're going to get 15% more volume, okay? At plus 2 volts, you're going to get 30% more pump output, okay? So, you can grow to 1,000 horsepower with this setup. Now, there might be some other restrictions and whatnot, and maybe, my system isn't capable of that. But anyway, that's a lot, man, with great reliability, and it's on-demand fueling. So that's kind of what I've been looking at for years, and that's what I really like about it. And yeah, I think this is going to work great. Okay, so here's the VaporWorks Pwm Controller. This lid comes off, and it exposes all the hookups, okay? So we're going to have this mounted. I mean, you can mount it anywhere, but it says close to the battery, and you hook it up to the battery, okay? So I'll put this under the hood somewhere, and I'm going to run a wire from the battery to here, positive, and then negative, okay? And then here is the pump, positive, output, okay? The pump negative goes, so this is the negative, sorry. Battery and pump negative go here, battery here, pump here, okay? So that controls the voltage. This here is the input from, there's 3 wires for the fuel pressure sensor. There's 2 to the map, and there's one for turn on from ECM, okay? And then I have an additional wire which would be from a voltage booster in case I ever want more, okay? I'm not going to do that now, but later down the road, if I need more, I have the opportunity to boost the voltage to the pump and get more flow. So it comes in, so this is their heavy duty case, heavy duty aluminum, I guess for heat dissipation and whatnot or something like that. But in any case, he had the heavy duty one, and that's the one I went with. It comes with connectors and pins and fuses and all the good stuff to make all your connections. Because if you look here, this is for the fuel pressure. I labeled this. These wires are terminated for the fuel pump module, but you got to run this all the way to this guy, so you will need to terminate it. Okay, so that's this bundle of wires here. We have the map, so I'm going to have to split the map signal and then run it to here. And then here is the battery wire, and it has a fuse. And then here is the ground wire to the battery. And then here is the wiring that runs to the pump module. And it comes with nice instructions on how to do it all. So I just read through all this, and it's pretty self-explanatory. Let's take a look at the old pumps just for the hell of it. So these were the stock CTSV pumps, Bosch pumps, and the filter and whatnot that's attached. So these were replaced with AEM pumps. But real quick, let me also show you this part that comes in the VaporWorks kit. So this is a fitting that has an 1/8 inch NPT port. I believe this is 1/8 inch NPT. I mean, it sure looks like it. So there's a sensor and there's an adapter. So this guy gets screwed on right here. Okay, it gets screwed on, and then you put the sensor right in here. Okay, so it's going to go something like that or whatever. This is a cap, and that's it. Now I'm going to go to my hose whip. So I have some fittings and I have some hose. We'll see how it is when I put the tank in and see how it all looks. But that's it. It's pretty simple, clean. I only got one line to worry about, and so forth. And now I got this all upgraded, so I'm not going to have any leaks. Also, Carl mentioned that I can cut off this tab. This is simply to locate and clock it for OEM applications or whatever, you know, or whatnot. So what I did, I don't know where it is. Let's see here. I just trimmed that tab right off. So that'll allow me to clock this however I want, because I think it's at a funky angle normally. So maybe I want this guy straight back, okay, and then I'll just whip it to my hard line. All right, so let's go over how this guy drops in, this fuel module. First of all, this connection here is for the LS3 style, and it won't fit on the Cadillac style. So there's an adapter that I need to buy. Actually, I already bought it, but it's not coming in, so I didn't want to delay this video. VaporWorks has this fitting that connects from here to here. So these are the corner pickups. So it sucks fuel from either corner, as I discussed in the previous video. But let's just pretend I hook that up. This guy drops right in. There's an O-ring. Okay. And since I cut off that tab, I can clock this guy to suit the hard line in my car. Okay, so this guy drops in like that. You got this cam ring. So it goes like that. I'll have to put some pliers on here and twist this into the detent. So it's got to go about another 5 or 10 degrees. Okay, but I can clock this however I want. The sensor is going to hide nicely here. We're going to have wires here and here, and it's going to, you know, all these hookups, and it's going to go through the trunk. And that's it. So it's pretty simple, pretty clean. Love it. All right, so let's take a look at the VaporWorks site, and that's VaporWorks with an X, okay? And their motto is, we give you gas, all right? So what I really want to show you is this resource tab. So it kind of walks you through how everything works, okay? And look at all this stuff here. There's just sections, and it walks you through, obviously, fuel delivery 101, basics, fuel pumps, regulators, filters, fuel modules, how do PDMs work, controllers, and the corner pickups, and fuel transfer lines and everything like that. So, I mean, I read through all this many times, and it really does a good job of explaining why and the benefits of going with a fuel module and PWM and all that. Okay, that's how a lot of the OEMs do it, and in this case, you still can get a lot of power, a lot of fuel flow out of a system like this, and retain all the OEM stuff, which has its advantages. So definitely read through all this stuff. It's pretty interesting, and that's what this company's all about. And I'm happy to use these products. I think they're going to work great. Okay, so that's VaporWorks with an X. All right, so here are some pictures of Carl's car. This is a trip to Daytona, and all three cars pictured here have the VaporWorks controllers and fuel modules, and man, these are some badass looking cars. All right, guys, well, that's it for this video. Make sure to check out VaporWorks website. I'll throw a link in the upper right and in the video description. There's a ton of tech information on that website, so make sure to check it out.